The visuals for this section of the performance are generated by applying different kinds of touch to my webcam, which is covered with blue tape. Action. Cover, uncover webcam. Text. Minor abstraction manifesto. Minor abstraction challenges claims of disciplinary, material, and economic boundedness for the artwork. Minor abstraction chooses its form through its context. Minor abstraction enacts material and contextual multiplicity by reframing the relationship between the hetero and the homo as linguistic forms upstream from designations of identity. Minor abstraction forgoes ideas of autonomy inherited from the modernist model of the artwork in order to embrace a promiscuous heterogeneity. Minor abstraction folds itself in and around pre-established aesthetic and institutional forms, attending to absences, negative spaces, and blanks. Minor abstraction operates through suppleness in its approach, sometimes playing to lose. Minor abstraction questions the certainty of painting as the primary medium of abstraction. Minor abstraction refuses to always and only ever be an artwork. Minor abstraction choreographs trajectories through the patterns of the eye, the hand, the tongue, and the lips. Action, rub, webcam. Text. Eye to hand, hand to tongue, tongue to eye to tongue, tongue to hand, hand to eye to lip, lip to lip, 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 to lip. Action, cover webcam. Text. Why do we close our eyes when we kiss? Action, stroke webcam. Text. In 1941, painter Bridget Riley created her first fully abstract composition after a series of color studies based on pointillist paintings by the 19th century impressionist Georges Seurat. The black and white composition consists of a bold figure-ground relationship that compresses negative space to the narrow difference between two opposing shapes. The first is a cropped circle swooping down from the bottom of the canvas that occupies just under 2/3 of the picture plane. This flat curve touches the straight edge of another plane at the bottom of the canvas at a single point. The painting is called Kiss. In 1969, 2 years after winning a Pulitzer Prize for her collection titled Live or Die, poet Anne Sexton released a follow-up book titled Love Poems. The second poem in the collection is called The Kiss. This is the poem. My mouth blooms like a cut. I've been wronged all year. Tedious nights, nothing but rough elbows in them, and delicate boxes of Kleenex calling, cry baby, you fool. Before today, my body was useless. Now, it's tearing at its square corners. It's tearing old Mary's garments off, knot by knot. And see, now it's shot full of these electric bolts. Zing, a resurrection. Once it was a boat, quite wooden, and with no business, no salt water under it, and in need of some paint. It was no more than a group of boards. But you hoisted her, rigged her. She's been elected. My nerves are turned on. I hear them like musical instruments. Where there was silence, the drums, the strings are incurably playing. You did this. Pure genius at work. Darling, the composer has stepped into the fire. End of poem. Although I don't know much about poetry, I have been obsessed with Anne Sexton since I encountered her work in an undergraduate English class in 2007. In 2008, I experienced a loss I am not ready to talk about here. I still lived in Vancouver. I was 23 years old. Later that year, I had the chance to go to Paris for the first time. It was my first time away from my family, 4 years and 2 months after being granted convention refugee status. I traveled with a Guatemalan passport and a Canadian permanent resident paper. The young immigration officer who processed me at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport had probably never seen a Guatemalan passport. He nodded to himself in seeming confusion and called the officer next to him. The second officer said something I could not understand, and they both waved me through. Apparently, my Guatemalan passport, but not my Canadian permanent residency, granted me the ability to visit France for 90 days. On my second day in Paris, I decided to go to their modern art and contemporary art museum, Palais de Tokyo. I woke up at the hostel where I was staying, around the corner from La Grande Mosquée de Paris. I took the metro and got out right around the corner from the museum. It has taken me many years and an unexpected turn to abstraction in my practice to realize the deep impact that show had on me. Watching Riley's profound and patient observation of Seurat, the way in which she folded herself in with his work in such an intimate way, attempting to understand him, brushstroke by brushstroke, to put together the web of color dots that made up his canvas. And then, after learning from it, transforming that knowledge both quickly and in many ways radically, zooming into abstraction and reducing her palette. I went through the exhibition, dazzled, perhaps more not by her big canvases, but by her small gouache studies that she lays out carefully, like an architect. Afterwards, as I flipped through the catalog for the show without intending to buy anything from the museum bookstore, I saw a short, almost doll-like man across from me who seemed extremely familiar. It was Randy Harrison, the actor who played Justin in the TV show Queer as Folk. In 1999, when asked in an interview for another retrospective published on YouTube about her relationship to Seurat and the ways in which they both have been accused of being somewhat mechanical in their approach as painters, Riley said the following.
certainly at one point in my life, in rage, strong feeling, think that I would give this business up, hateful business of painting, and I was bitterly disappointed in myself, and I painted in fury a black canvas. With what amounted to a sort of very expressionist handling of black paint. I came down the next morning and looked at it, and I realized that it was quite inexpressive of what I'd felt. It was just a lot of black paint. It said nothing. It conveyed nothing. And I thought, now what is wrong with it? Why has it failed? It hasn't had an opposition. Nothing has opposed it. It was let to run like a flood of feeling, and it meant nothing. But if it had been opposed, this would, so it was black, so it needed white. And just the opposite of these marks was a straight line. So I drew a straight line. The opposite of the straight line was a curved line. And that brought the thing together.
As I have learned from Riley and Sexton, without even fully understanding it for some time, I wonder about the ways in which I am turning from their modernist approaches. I know I am interested in translating points of contact away from binaries and into the widest range of colors. Colors depicting the widest range of flesh tones, colors depicting the primaries and all of their combinations. I know I'm interested in creating work that can recombine formal logics in order to articulate what it means to live in a new context. Right now, a kiss can mean more than anything in the world. The following section present variations on Sexton's The Kiss. Variation 1 is an erasure version of the poem, where I have taken out words in order to create a new composition. Erasure A is created in gray. Cut all tedious elbows and cry, baby. Today was tearing, not shot bolts, zing and no paint. Was hoisted here, where drums incurably work the fire. The second variation of the poem is another erasure, this time in red. Blooms cut, wrong but delicate, culling my square knot and shot with water and paint. No group elected, nerves on silence playing, genius, fire. Variation 3 of the poem is read backwards, in yellow, with a dark background. Fire into stepped has composer, the darling work at genius pure. This you did, playing incurably our strings, the drums, the silence was there where instruments musical like them here I. On turned our nerves my elected, been she's her rigged, her hoisted you but boards of group A then, more no was it, paint some need in and it under water, salt no, business no, with and wouldn't quite, a boat Ah, was it once resurrection a zing, bolts, electric, these of full shot it's now see, and knot by knot, off garments, Mary's old tearing its corners square. It's at tearing its now useless was body my today before. Fool you, cry baby, calling Kleenex off boxes, delicate and in them, elbows rough but nothing nights, tedious, year all wrong, bin I've cut a, like Bloom's mouth, my. The last section of the performance is entitled Selenography, and this action imagines a correspondence between a body and the moon. Thank you. Good night.